Good morning. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. I am going to speak first and talk about a few details with the city, and then I've asked Director Niemer to be here from our Community Services Department to speak on some of the issues happening there. So here in Redding, we are finally turning the corner on the pandemic. We've all spent the last 2 months in a state of limbo, wondering when we'd be able to see friends and family, frequent our favorite stores and restaurants, and return to our jobs. I want to thank Governor Newsom for recognizing that our region has taken great strides to protect the health and safety of our community and allowing us to move forward into a full Stage 2 reopening. Thank you to our county officials, including Dr. Ramstrom, the Board of Supervisors, and Sheriff Eric McGreeny, for working diligently to overcome some of the hurdles necessary to allow our region to move forward so that we can see some local businesses reopen. These folks recognize that our community is unique and that we have made progress in ensuring that we are able to reopen while providing support to our businesses and residents. If you haven't done so already, please visit shastaready.org to find the roadmap provided by the county that will guide our progress through the stages until we are fully reopened. For now, we are moving through Stage 2, and that means, with some modifications for safety, retail businesses, shopping malls, and dine-in restaurants can open along with others. Still not allowed are gyms, nail salons, bars and lounges, movie theaters, religious services, and others. Again, for a full list, please visit shastaready.org. And please continue to practice common sense and follow the guidelines. Over the last several weeks, the city has poured about $16 million back into our local economy through the return of utility deposits, credits on utility bills, and assistance for low-income qualified individuals. I want to thank the Redding City Council, which acted swiftly and decisively for the return of these funds to our residents and business owners was able to happen very early on during the stay-at-home order. These are the types of decisions that the council is proud to be able to make to assist our community. City staff is currently reviewing and planning to award additional projects to infuse yet an additional $9 to $10 million into the economy through energy savings, construction contracts, and grants to assist small businesses with their utility expenses. Our small businesses are the backbone of our community, and we want to see them succeed. I am proud to say that the grants will be able to provide additional support to those who are struggling through this pandemic. Finally, let me take just a minute to outline our financial situation here at the city. Please remember that we are working for you every day. Right now, our finances look okay. We were trending ahead of schedule prior to the pandemic, so our finances have been able to hold steady so far. There may very well be losses that we will have to face. We are constantly watching for economic downturns and keeping in tune with grants that may be available from the federal and state governments to assist us in keeping ahead of any losses that we may incur as we turn the corner into recovery. We don't know what the next several months will bring, but we are remaining confident that we will be able to manage it as well as possible. I am so very proud of our city. We are resilient and forward-thinking, and we will recover from this pandemic. We need your help, though. Please continue to follow the guidelines, and again, visit shastaready.org for the details of those guidelines. We are turning the corner, so let's keep going in that direction. Thank you. And I will now have our Community Services Director speak.
Thank you, Mayor McElvain, for this opportunity to address the community and update you on some important activity that we are moving on with in the Community Services Department to support this reopening of our businesses and communities. So we know for many people that safe and reliable childcare is an important component to them being able to return to work. So we're pleased that we've been able to work with the Public Health Department to open our summer day camps as scheduled on June 8th. We will have a number of new operating procedures in place to have a higher sanitation efforts as well as social distancing. So those families that have been with us for a long time will see some changes, and we will be rolling those out in the weeks before the actual start of camp. In addition, there's been some question about the pool, and so we have been also having dialogue with Shasta County Environmental Health about how we can do that safely. And so because our day camps and our swim lessons are childcare related, that we will be pursuing those as our regular schedule. However, open public swim will be delayed until at such time that that activity is allowed. So for now, we encourage you to sign up for swim lessons. Water safety is a crucial effort in our community, surrounded by so many lakes and rivers and pools, and we've got a great staff waiting to teach your children. The Senior Citizen Center is probably going to be one of the last to open. We've been reaching out to, we have over 500 members at the Senior Citizens Hall, keeping in touch with them, but because they're in a high risk category, don't anticipate opening that for at least another month or so, depending on how the phases come. And then lastly, I wanted to clarify that the parks remain open, however, the play structures are closed. And so we've been trying to keep the play structures wrapped with caution tape. Sometimes it comes down. So I just wanted to reiterate that we know that, especially as kids have been cooped up now for weeks at a time, and as the weather gets better, outdoor play is a really important part of a good physical and mental health regimen. And so encouraging people to safely use our parks and trails with social distancing, but to please remain off of the play structures at this time. And with that, that concludes my remarks, and Mayor's happy to handle any questions.
Thank you. Okay, David. Oh, yes.
I think we need to use a microphone.
Is this good? Okay. Can you give us an update on the Freedom Festival? It's been about a week since you announced the potential for changes, or whether it will happen, or any update.
Yes, actually your timing is good. We had a conference call with the Police and Fire and Streets Department yesterday. So our plan is to really barricade off the intersection starting about 10 o'clock in the morning, working with the other neighbors there, Turtle Bay, the Sheridan, Vikings Gate, to ensure their customers have access, but really, forbidding the public to convene in that area and encouraging everyone to watch remotely. There was a thought that we might be able to pull off social gathering, but it seems unlikely at this time, so we are proceeding with hard closure plans with the help of the fire and police departments.
Any concern from the city people watching remotely, these subsets of large crowds, and any thoughts on mitigating that?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to enforce private gatherings, and so we'll be continuing to push out messaging, encouraging social distancing. But what we know is when we're on the lawn at the Civic, we are packed in like sardines, having a great time as a community, and that certainly isn't safe. So I think for us, this is the best way that we can enforce it, and just, obviously people have to take responsibility for their own safety and social distancing in a private setting.
Just to follow up on that, you talk about the play structures. When do you see those play structures kind of reopening?
So they will be in a future phase, and so when the state rolls that out, we will open our playgrounds. It seems like that could be a while, just because of all of the hands touching playgrounds and the lack of ability for us to really regularly sanitize them. But as soon as that's determined to be safe, we will open them.
And just to follow up on that again too, so, we have these facilities. Are there any plans to help keep them safe at this time? Like, will there be like deep sanitation if possible?
Well, we actually have, what we are doing is we have a partnership now with the Smart Employment Center, and so they were recently awarded a grant for a jobs program related to COVID-19, and so we are under contract for 6 workers, full-time workers, that are going to be working at Caldwell Park, basically on a circuit, just going around sanitizing all of our day camp facilities and the pool, and also of our enterprise park, so that our program staff are not, they're not always mindful of that, but these folks will be specifically tasked. In addition, we got 4 workers at the Redding Library as well. So we are definitely upping our sanitation effort with full-time staff specifically assigned to that, and it's all grant funded through the Smart Center.
Library update, opening, any chance?
I can report, actually this is hot off the press also, is that we are going to start curbside drop-off and on Monday and pickup. So the book deposit is actually already open. So if you've been holding on to books that you want to return, you can go ahead and do that now. However, we will be working with people that have holds in place and then opening up an opportunity for people to request curbside pickup of new material. And that will start on Monday. No going into the library for now.
So this one is for Mayor. So, as we start to move into phase 2, are there concerns that that COVID could bounce back here in our community, in our city?
I think there's always concerns, and that's why we're looking at the data, and we continue to look at the data. So we have those parameters established by the state and local public health that will follow. And so if we do see a resurgence or a new spike, that may entail some new policies coming out as far as restrictions on how we can operate as a city. So yeah, we're definitely paying attention to that, and I think we have pretty clear guidance at this point as to what those statistics are and how they'll affect our ability to reopen the city.
To also follow up on that, you talked about policies. So are there plans in place if it does break out again?
I believe so. Our city manager was on the Road to Recovery task force. Did you want to comment on that?
So I think as the mayor indicated, the county has, through their resiliency roadmap to resiliency or reopening, has very specific guidelines for moving back or rolling back as necessary. They haven't specifically indicated what that might be, but they have metrics under which they'll review and determine what we need to do. So, and for instance, it could be that you roll back restaurants to pick up only. We as a city will strictly be working with the county and taking county public health's lead.
Another question for either the city manager or the mayor. So, everything's been really hard. So do you see the community bouncing back from this, like, maybe mentally, emotionally, and financially?
I do, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have remained strong through the pandemic. It's definitely been a very emotional time for everybody because it's been a real struggle. So there are many people who are scared, and this is scary stuff, but there are also a lot of people who are very angry. But, we've been through it before with the car fire and other situations, especially in our recent past. So I have 100% confidence in our city that we're going to bounce back. And you can feel, there's a lot of, it feels like pent up demand to bounce back. So I do have a lot of confidence in Redding, and I think we'll be very successful in our efforts for recovery.
And, just again, to follow up on that, some restaurants today are back open with obviously limited operations and modifications. How does it feel, at least, like a message you want to send to the community that we're kind of slowly getting back on track out there? Yes,
I went out and actually went to pick up some food at a restaurant that did have the dine-in, and it really felt good because it felt kind of normal. And so I really enjoyed that, and I think that a lot of people are really going to enjoy being able to return to a normal life, and I think that that's very important.
Is there an enforcement policy for the large gathering ban? I mean, beyond enforcement through education, as Sheriff McGreeny referred to the Cottonwood Rodeo. If somebody tries to organize an event like that in the city of Redding, will it be broken up?
So I understand that question. I appreciate it. And I'm going to give you much the same answer that Sheriff McGreeny did. And that's because education has been proven tremendously effective. As you may have heard, there was a planned drag race this weekend. That will not occur. I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is weather doesn't look like it would cooperate anyway, but also our phone call to the people who run the drag strip were very understanding, and they were moving towards that because of elements of reopening, and they thought they might be able to. And so we don't expect that we're going to have that sort of need to get into a punitive measure, because our community has been very responsive to education, and I think that we'll be able to continue to do that.
So real quick, you're not talking about the races that were planned for May 9th and 10th this past weekend. You're talking about they were going to have races this coming weekend that they've decided to postpone.
That's correct, at the Redding Drag Strip.
And then this is a question for Kim. Can you be a little more specific on what the new rules are going to be for the day camps when they open?
Sure, I can give you a few examples. So one is that we'll be doing thermometer checks, temperature checks with all campers and staff every morning. We'll be changing our drop-in and pickup procedures so that those will be happening outside the building, so we're not bringing parents inside the building. We'll be keeping family sets together, and we'll also be keeping our groups of 10 together. So generally we rotate groups to different counselors for different activities. The counselors and the groups will stay together, so we'll be taking a lot of measures to minimize the exposure number of people that they're exposed to throughout the day. We have a big sanitation effort, so mostly it is minimizing exposure to the fewest number of people, increasing sanitation, and doing health checks on both the campers and the staff every day to ensure that no one is entering that may be unwell.
Kim, is the big project, the big grant-funded project in Caldwell Park, is that delayed because of the coronavirus? And if so, is the funding still secure?
It is not delayed. We are actually working in earnest, and we have been through this shutdown, getting ready to go out to bid for the design work and the skate park contract. So we've been plugging away here during this interim period and getting all those projects geared up for future construction. I will say that I am a bit hopeful that there is some grace on the deadlines. It was an aggressive time period already, but the state has been flexible, but we don't anticipate them kind of notifying us this early, but it'd be nice if we had a little more time, but we are on track with the design work and requests for proposals.
Just to follow up on that, so, we're reopening some summer programs, some facilities. So what was the reasoning and decision behind that? I know that a lot of people are going to have concerns, especially, for example, with day camps, because, kids can get really close and touchy-feely. So, yeah, the reasoning behind it, I guess.
The reasoning is we have a lot of parents that need to get back to work. And so we are the primary summer child care provider in this community. We serve about 2,000 enrolled children. Some of those are duplicated, of course, but so our families depend on us to take care of their kids while school is out in a enriching and fun way, and so we felt like this was a necessary part of the reopening, that families could have dependable child care through the summer and so that they could go back to work.
You talked about finances and at least being financially on track. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? A lot of the governor has saying that this has been a huge, economic dip for the state. So can you just talk about Redding's financial situation a little bit more?
We were, previous to, and I'll probably let the city manager follow up on this, but previous to the pandemic starting, we were over budget, so we were seeing more revenues than what we had budgeted for. So we were in good shape before the pandemic, and we're a little bit different than some of the other cities that are being hit pretty hard, that are largely dependent on tourism dollars for their tax revenue. We do have a fair amount of tourism here, but our hotel tax is probably about 10% or less of our general fund. The rest primarily comes from sales tax and property tax. So we haven't seen quite the hit yet that some of the other cities have seen in the state. But we're constantly watching because, I mean, there could be a more significant downturn in the economy that would affect our revenues.
So just to elaborate, or to clarify, so you said we haven't still seen the hit, but we could eventually see it in the long run.
Correct. And so the council has already planned on having a deep dive on our financial situation this September, because that way we will have all of our information from the previous year put together to analyze. And so September feels like a good time that we can really look at our finances and project our future budgets. So we haven't had to make any sort of in the moment changes to our budget or make any cuts yet, because we're still, from a financial standpoint, we're still in a healthy position. Steve, did you have one? No. Okay.
I wasn't making it there.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for any of us? All right. Thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone watching at home. Thank you.